Hello and welcome to another video of our virtual VRED deep dive session. In this video I will talk about features we have implemented to improve your CGI workflows. With VRED 2020 we have introduced a new feature called Perspective Match, which helps to adjust the camera viewpoint so the backplate image perspective matches the 3D scene and places objects as they were part of the background. This feature can be found in the Advanced tab of the camera editor for all perspective cameras. While in perspective match mode, it is only possible to pan, zoom and rotate horizontally around the camera pivot. Let's move over to VRED and create a new backplate first of all. And make some adjustments to it. Next step is loading the corresponding HDR image to match the lighting of the backplate. In the Camera Editor Advanced tab, we can now activate the Perspective Match, which gives us the vanishing lines for XYZ that can now be adjusted with some reference points in the backplate. As you can see, there's also a small magnifier next to the mouse cursor helping me doing that. While doing that process, the camera angle and field of view is adjusted on the fly. While being in perspective match mode, my vertical navigation is disabled and I'm only able to pan, zoom and rotate on a horizontal level. Okay, let's activate ray tracing and make some minor adjustments to the materials. The shadow plane a little bit darker, and let's rotate the HDR image. Alright, that looks pretty good. Another great feature we have introduced with VRED 2020 is the support of Crypromatte Renderpasses. Crypromatte efficiently resolves the tricky issue of automatically generating consistent ID mattes from renders. Crypromatte Reader plugins are available for major compositing packages such as Nuke, Blackmagic Fusion, Natron or Photoshop. To output Crypromatte information in your renders, simply choose Crypromatte geometry or material from your render passes in the Render Settings module. Keep in mind that this workflow works only for multi-layer EXR images. Okay, let's move over to VRED and let me show you the Crypromatte workflow with a compositing tool called Natron, which is a free and open source compositing software. So first of all, we choose as an image format in EXR. And very important is to export that as a multi-layer EXR. And then we simply choose the beauty path and the Crypromatte object path, which creates masks for every object that is visible in my rendering. And let's render that image out. Okay, in Natron I can simply drag and drop my EXR image into the node graph. And first of all I have to create a shuffle node. And now a Crypromatte key. So the shuffle node gives me the possibility to see all the masks that are in that Crypromatte path. Let's connect that with the EXR image and my Crypromatte key. And now let's select for my Crypromatte key an object I want to modify. In that case, the door handle. So this has now created just one mask for that single object. Let's add a color correction node and connect that with my Crypromatte mask and my EXR image. And now I'm able to change the saturation just for that Crypromatte pass and my door handle in that case. So let's repeat that a second time. Create a Crypromatte key. Connect that with my shuffle node. And this time I will select two objects and combine them in one Crypromatte mask pass. So let's take that badge of the rim and also of the rear rim. And as you can see, this has created one mask for two objects. So again, a color correction node. Connect that with the output of my Crypromatte pass and also with my EXR image. And now I'm able to change the saturation for these two badges in my image. So the workflow might look a little bit different in other tools, but I think you get the idea. With VRED 2020.1, we have updated our HDR Light Studio support to the Tungsten release and higher. HDR Light Studio supports 3D area lights and allows to synchronize these to rectangular area lights in the VRED scene. This is supported for HDR Light Studio Tungsten release. Of course, older HDR Light Studio versions are still supported, but without area lights. Okay, let's move over to VRED and see how our HDR Light Studio implementation works. So first, select your environment in the material editor and go to the HDR Light Studio tab. Press Edit and Load Settings. This will start HDR Light Studio. Now you can simply drag and drop one of these lights in HDR Light Studio and position them. To promote that light to an area light in VRED, click the area light checkbox. This has now created an area light in VRED automatically. You can now continue placing lights as much as you like. Don't forget to press the area light if you want to promote it in the VRED scene. The dolly multiplier helps you to position your light in the scene. With VRED 2020.3, we have introduced a new feature called VariantSet Render, which allows users to configure and render combinations of variant sets within the render settings module. Let's move over to VRED and let me show you how our VariantSet render works. I have a small scene with some variants in it and also some viewpoints. We can open the render setting module, and in here we have added a new tab called Variant Sets. Simply drag and drop your variant sets you want to render in combination in here. In our first scenario, we want to render all car paints in two different environments with all available rim variants. Let's define a location and a name for our files. As you can see, the naming scheme is shown in here. By reordering your groups, you can influence how the naming scheme is adapted. This will produce in total 16 files. As you can see, I have now for each car paint variant and each rim in two different environments images created. So in the second scenario, I want to render all viewpoints that are in my scene with, let's say, one environment, one variation of rim, and only two variations of car paints. This will produce in total 12 images. Let's define a different location for that. And here we are. So we have now created for 2 different core panes all the viewpoints that are in my scene. If you want to combine different render modes or resolutions in one take, you can use our render queue. So let's do the following. Select the current view. We go into that view. And use our desert environment, 2 different variants of core panes, and add that to our render queue. Before I define the path where I want to render these images. And call this OpenGL, because our first set is produced in OpenGL. And add that to the render queue. So this will produce only 2 files in OpenGL. And the next, I want to activate ray tracing. So here in my case, I have just activated pre-computed with reflections to save some render times. But as you can see, the side mirror is reflecting now. Let's do the ray trace images in the studio with 2 different sets and maybe 2 different colors. And I can also change the resolution. And add that to the render queue as well. This will produce in total 4 files. Now I'm able to render all images in one take. Here are my 2 OpenGL images. And here are my 4 ray tracing images. That's it on the improvements we have made to improve your CGI workflow. Hope to see you in one of the next videos.